Kilcoy is a small country town situated in southeast Queensland. This usually quiet, self-effacing town was recently victim to a horrific event that sent ripples throughout the surrounding community. On the 19th of August 2017, there was a huge explosion that came from within the Kilcoy Caravan Park. The fire left a lasting impact on the park's residents, the park manager, local business owners and neighbours of the area. Thankfully, no one was killed or seriously injured in the blast. Several caravans were completely set ablaze. Some people lost absolutely every possession they owned, including their homes. This is the story of those people. In just 4 short weeks before the fire, the town was in high spirits, hosting the annual Kilcoy Beer and Barbecue Fest. The event included the selling of craft beers and slow-cooked barbecue meat. There was also a barbecue competition involving quality lamb, pork ribs, beef ribs and briskets. There were also family activities such as a petting zoo, pig races, wood cutting and live music. This inclusive event encapsulates the general atmosphere of Kilcoy: friendly, approachable and hard-working people that are passionate about their home. According to a council report held on the 27th of September, the event itself was a massive success. Local councillor Cheryl Gadke stated, "The crowd was equal to the inaugural event held last year, with many more stalls attending this year's festival." Last year, 101.5 FM reported that the festival had received over 6,000 visitors. This means that this year's edition may have even surpassed the previous year's success. The residents of Kilcoy had no idea that in just a few short weeks, a fire and several explosions would take place in the centre of the town. Kilcoy has a population of 1,700, and mid-August they were all shaken to their very core. Right behind me, we have Irene's establishment as the manager of the park.
Well, my name's Irene Wilson. I'm the manager of this caravan park. I have been for 14 years. I do everything in the caravan park. I do all the gardening, the mowing, the repairs, the cleaning, so I'm kept busy all the time.
Despite having over a decade of experience managing the Kilcoy Caravan Park, it is unlikely that Irene will ever forget the events of that one day.
I was up at the shops and I came back and drove in my driveway. I came inside and I walked back out to the kitchen and I could smell an unusual smell. So I walked out onto the back landing and I could see just a bit of grey smoke coming up, which I thought was coming from the pub. So I walked up the back there, and by the time I'd got up to level where the first caravan was, it was just masses of black smoke and flames coming out the back of this caravan.
When the fire began, several residents of the park attempted to douse the flames with garden hoses, trying to contain the flames before the fire brigade arrived. This proved an ineffective strategy, as the flames continued burning down anything in their path, while the smoke continued to rise. There were few videos of the flame itself taken that day, as most people were fixated on helping solve the situation and make sure everyone was safe. Leah Fisher was one of the few witnesses who managed to record the event. She has allowed permission for me to use her video. This is her full unedited recording of the fire, directly before the explosions took place.
I've already called the fireys. Yeah, they're on their way. We don't know. Oh, the fireys are coming. You're not going to get that out with a garden hose. Is it gas bottles? Probably. He can't get anywhere near it, Vicky. It's pretty hot. Maybe move your car a bit forward.
And all the tenants ran around, we all had hoses, but it was hopeless. And I went around to the other side, and this first caravan was fully engulfed in flame. And then I could see the caravan next to it starting to catch on fire. And the explosion was just the gas in the fridges, because we don't have gas on our caravans. There was only one caravan that had a gas bottle, and it didn't even explode. It was from the air conditioners, the gas in the air conditioners and the fridges that exploded. And then it just, by that time, it was the heat, and we had 70-kilometre-hour winds, and it was just phenomenal. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. I never want to go through that again.
Irene and several of the park's residents were the first to realise the danger the fire presented. They tried admirably to put out the flames until the emergency services could arrive, but by then, the whole town was aware of the immediate impending danger. One of the first to notice the fire outside of the park itself was neighbour John Robertson, who has a view of the vans from his own backyard.
My wife said to me, she said, "I can smell smoke." So she went out on the veranda. She yelled out, "You better get out the back, there's smoke everywhere." So I run out the back door, and you could hardly see 10 feet in front of me.
Yeah. So we just got the people and their little dogs out, and then the police said, "No cars are staying where they are." So the people up there just walked away from their vans, hoping that they were going to come back to them.
These people may very well have never had the opportunity to return to their vans, as the most devastating explosion of the Kilcoy Caravan Park fire is the one that did not occur. John Robertson had several gas tanks outside of his home. If they were caught up in the fire, the damage they could have caused would have been cataclysmic.
And because we got two 2-ton gas tanks that were full, so those tanks is something like about 8,000 or 9,000 litres of gas. If those gas tanks had blown up, it would have just completely fried this area. There'd have been nothing left of it. And it was scaring the hell out of us.
The fire took its physical toll on the park itself, burning several caravans to complete ash. There were spot fires starting in John Robertson's backyard, threatening to spread to the gas tanks themselves. If it wasn't for his quick thinking, there may not have been anything left to save.
And I just went, get water on them really quick. And so I grabbed that hose. Luckily here we have very good water pressure, up to about 110, 120 psi. And I got the hose out and I just started to hose the tanks down, and we kept that going for about probably an hour while we were way before the fire brigade ever came to the fire. It eventually cleared enough we could see the flames were, I don't know, 30, 40 feet in the air. And at one stage we thought like our place was going to go up and the place next door. We thought we're all going to cop it.
The fear that John and the surrounding neighbours felt that day is still a regular occurrence for Irene Wilson. Understandably, she has not fully recovered from the trauma she experienced that day.
Emotionally very bad. Yeah, I've been under a lot of stress. I got very, very sick a couple of weeks ago, and when I went to the doctor I had really high blood pressure. I've never had high blood pressure in my life before, but I still now, after all this time, I wake up at the night time screaming. I can see the flames coming out of that back window. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, that fire. Never want to see it again, And it's taken a real toll on me, emotionally.
Ripples were felt throughout the town as well as the entire Somerset region. I reached out to local councillor Cheryl Gadke, as well as Mayor Graham Lehman, for comment on the situation. Cheryl Gadke is a councillor for the Somerset region and a representative for the local government. She calls Kilcoy home and was devastated when she heard the news coming out of the caravan park. Through email correspondence, she stated, "I felt very sorry for the affected occupants of the caravan park. However, after watching the event unfold on Facebook, I was so relieved that no one was injured or killed due to the incident." When reaching out to Mayor Graham Lehman, Communications and Marketing Manager of the Somerset Regional Council, Melanie Massili, informed me that an interview of the Mayor was not possible. In a confidential email I am unable to distribute here, I became aware that the facility was not owned or managed by the Council. They subsequently denied to comment on the situation that occurred at the Kilcoy Caravan Park. Here I am at Yowie Park in front of the Yowie statue, one of Kilcoy's most renowned sites. Where I am now is 2 minutes drive from the Kilcoy Caravan Park, and just down the road from here, in the Hall of History, we have local historian Cole.
In the Hall of History, we open it today on Thursday. We open it every day of the week we possibly can. And so me, I'm retired. I do Meals on Wheels. I do the garden at the local church, one of the local churches. I preach at one of the local churches. I belong to the local garden club, so there's always something to do here in Little Kilcoy.
Although retired, Cole Ferguson is as busy as ever within the Kilcoy community. While on some errands, he was one of the key witnesses, with a view from the main street outside of the park.
And I could see the smoke billowing above all the shops. So as I cruised up onto Mary Street, outside the hardware shop, I pulled in, and just as I got there, there was a number of bangs following one another, and that was the gas bottles going off. A lot of billowing black smoke up, and as I drove around the corner and to the back of the place, I came across the other side, and behind the dry cleaners place that's there, and I could see the smoke and the damage that was done. It was quite strange to see all the people in the main street just standing there watching it. I've got no idea. There's been nothing in the paper to tell us.
Apparently, it's more rumour as to how it actually started. But one of the rumours, a fairly positive one, is that I don't know that they can prove it, is that someone left a cigarette in an ashtray and was blowing probably about a 30-knot westerly wind. The person went out of the caravan and left the cigarette in an ashtray. It blew out of the ashtray onto the sofa and up it went.
During my investigation, it became clear that the majority of the populace had no definitive answer to what actually started the whole ordeal in the first place. Due to the event not being reported on in the local paper, many townsfolk were left to speculate until a dominant answer started to come forward. A local business owner heard several theories before there was a general consensus on the cause. Right behind me we have a local business owned by Martin Harris. The fire happened directly behind this establishment. Let's see what he has to say.
My name is Martin Harris, and I am the co-owner of the local restaurant Harmony Manor. Nobody knew, and you could only speculate. I was thinking maybe someone's been in the van and they've been cooking, or it could have been something along those lines. And customers, after it happened, were coming in and saying that they'd heard like there could have been a meth lab, that someone might have dropped a cigarette, so that no one was really sure until a fair bit after it happened.
With information from investigators, witnesses, and those present during the horrific event, information on the cause of the fire is surprisingly scarce. One of the Caravan Park residents, Rusty, is even unsure on how the flames began.
Oh, there's a lot of innuendos and rumours and everything about how it started, but nobody knows. Even the investigators don't know.
Eventually, I discovered what the most likely cause of the fire was. It wasn't anything malicious or intentional. Instead, it was indeed accidental.
I can't understand why people have to go inside in bed and have a cigarette. You know, people have got to learn, if they want to smoke, they've got to smoke in an appropriate place. Not, you know, people don't realise what they put other people through. What I've been through because of one single cigarette, I'll never forget.
The girl that lived in that caravan, she wasn't even there. She was over in the toilet when it happened.
A single careless placement of a lit cigarette nearly resulted in the loss of human and animal life. It consumed people's homes and triggered several explosions, endangering the emergency personnel and bystanders equally.
My son was out there in the office and I brought him round and brought him inside, and then an explosion happened, a fairly solid explosion that just went through you, and it was quite scary. And at the moment I was moving towards seeing what was going on, and the biggest explosion happened right at that moment, right beside the fire truck. That was very scary, and then to think the firefighters now going to get caught in blasts, and are they going to get injured by this? And they seemed to be almost stuck in where they were going to be, and it was very scary thinking, for number one, was anyone in that caravan that was burning, and you just didn't know.
So this is where it started, in this caravan. It went to this one, then it went to that one, then it jumped across the big one over there, and then the one on there.
The final tally was 6 total caravans destroyed. The park is in the process of replacing the homes that were lost, but the remnants of the fire can still be seen today, in scorch marks on the pavement, walls, and nearby trees. I spoke to one of the people who lost everything, from their family photos to their most prized possessions. His name is Buffalo Barry.
Obviously I lost everything, it's really important stuff, like passports for instance, birth certificates, grandkid photos, all my past, you know, all that sort of thing. And then I had the Buddha, 350-year-old Buddha that was there. He's worth probably quite a lot of money. He got burnt pretty good. And then all I got left to me van was that fellow Rusty. It was like me cooking, they made a pea ham soup before I left. I gave Rusty a bowl. And when I come back, got Rusty to give me a bowl back, and that's all I had left. So he was a magnificent sight when he didn't get burnt, I must say that. Looked at it right, Orange has been absolutely brilliant, the town has been brilliant. You don't realise how lucky you are to have mates. You really don't.
My son, who's got autism, was out here at the time when the first explosion happened, and I came outside to find him just staring at the fire. And I noticed behind him that the explosion had gone straight through the whole building here, and taken a large fluoro line out of its casing and fallen down, but luckily it hadn't actually broken into 2 million pieces on the concrete floor.
I was on my way to Redcliffe, and I get a phone call halfway to Redcliffe, and they said, the caravan park's on fire. And I said, what? And they said, yeah. I said, I can see your van's okay. Then when I got to Redcliffe, I rang up Irene, the manager of the park, and she said my van got gutted plus another 3, you know.
And within 15 minutes, 5 caravans are flat. Nothing left, just ash. And there's a massive big pine tree over on the back fence that was on fire. The 2 big cabins up the back, it melted all the hardy plank off them. Oh, it would have been terrible if we'd lost a life or somebody had lost their little dog. No, old Rusty, he's got a little poodle. And when he went to leave, he put the little dog in the car, and the police dragged him outside and said, no, you can't go back in there. And I said to him, what's wrong? He was screaming. I said, what's wrong? He said, my dog. I said, where is he? He said, in the car. I ran straight past him and grabbed the little dog and took it out. Because if that little dog had gone, it would have been the end of him. You know, Rusty's 82 and that's his baby.
I've had 9 heart attacks. Albeit that most of them are light ones, mild ones. And I've had 3 strokes. One was pretty severe, the rest of them only niggly ones. But I don't worry about that sort of thing. The only thing that worries me is that if I was to die, my dog, Irene will take me dog.
Irene said to me, well, look, he says, there's another vacant van, which is just vacant, so you can move in that it's a night buff, so you can somewhere to stay, right? The other girl, Zoe, she had nowhere to stay, but somebody, instead of making town, she went and stayed with him. So that worked out pretty good.
The fella, the old fella, the people were really good to him. He got everything he needed. I put him into another caravan, you know, which is fully self-contained anyway, but his family gave him a lot of money, and people in the community gave him stuff, so he did really good. But as far as, the caravan park was the one that lost everything, and we have got nothing. Burn marks on it, and the window was burned out of it, but the fire brigade managed to save that one. And the little one over there, it was also burnt, but they just fixed that yesterday too. We're just in the process of getting some more caravans in now. Because we're losing so much money every week, you know, not having these vans here.
Despite Irene's generosity, she believes the park has not seen much support from the rest of the community. She did, however, tell me that during the fire, staff from the Kilcoy Exchange Hotel next door jumped the fence and were helping people evacuate. Staff of the pub were also taking videos and pictures of the event. Unfortunately, I was unable to corroborate this information, and I did not gain access to these videos. I was also unable to obtain an interview as the manager of the exchange refused to speak on the topic. Here in Aston Park, in the weeks following the tragic event, there was a fundraiser held for Zoe and Buff. This fundraiser raised $600 to $700 and went towards finding them new homes.
The town rallied round, because I've been in town for quite a while. They had a fundraiser in the park where we are now. They raised $700, $650 I think it might have been, for Zoe and me. I didn't want any of that. Be walking downtown or through the main street, and people would stop me and say, here's $15, here's a bit of food voucher, and what do you want, and all this sort of stuff. I said, I'm right, I said, I'm okay. I said, go and see Zoe, look after Zoe, see Zoe, you know. But everything went out all right in the end.
Because they had a get-together down in the park, and Buff just gave his share to her. People were a bit frightened of her, you know.
The fire started from a lit cigarette present in Zoe's caravan. I did not manage to gain an interview with her, but from what I understand, she landed back on her feet and found somewhere else nearby to Kilcoy to live. This was thanks to the fundraiser held for her and Buff.
She chose to leave. But I really don't know. I know she left, and of her own volition, and she's never tried to come back.
The lady in the first caravan, they had a fundraiser down at the park to raise money for her, and she, I don't know how much money she got out of that, but anyway, they did that, was really good. Like, I got to replace all the saucepans and crockery and cutlery and linen and everything. That costs hundreds of dollars, you know, in the other caravans that we're getting. And like I said, no, the community didn't do nothing for the caravan park.
Despite such a harrowing event of nearly fatal consequence, no humans or animals were killed, and no one was burnt or injured in any way. It is this attitude to persevere and survive that allowed the inhabitants of this park, as well as the rest of the town, to move on and start rebuilding for the future.
Another couple of weeks yet, because the power's all got to be done, the water's got to be done. The electrician has started the power, just took the vans up that are here, and we've got to get all the water hooked up to the other caravan, so it's going to take a couple of weeks.
And I wound up in the Northern Territory at Pine Creek at one particular time, and we were actually shooting buffalo. And I shot this big buffalo, and it was a beauty. The horns on it were magnificent, right? But I had a big panel beating shop in Townsville, which I sold a few years ago, and when I sold the shop, I sold my name too, right? So when I came to Kilcoy, I started this panel beating shop, and we were sitting around having a couple of beers. I said to the fellas, what am I going to call myself? I can't call myself Laurie Barry Smash Repairs, right? And somebody said, it's in the buffalo horns. Why don't you call yourself Buffalo Barry Panel? So that's the story of the buffalo horns, and of course they got burnt in the fire too.
If I worry about dying, I'll die. If I don't worry about it, and I'm quite happy here, little town, people speak to me and call me by name. My name's not Rusty, it's Alan, but I was born Russell. I was born Russell James Watts.
It has taken several months, but the Kilcoy Caravan Park is nearly completely restored to the state it was before the fire. The people directly affected have managed to come through unscathed and back on their feet. This hard-working community is usually accustomed to comfortable living and serenity, but despite this massive fire, it still has not broken their spirit.